definitely passion. Everybody
Absolutely.
who spoke tonight really cares about our student body and really wants to be in those positions. In terms of the two running for executive president, they certainly both have the credentials. There's no doubt about that. Joan Corvia being the executive vice president in SGA, and Jessica Petrillo serving as the current director of the ELN network and also junior class secretary.
And it seems like everyone in that room had the SGA experience. They really wanted to continue to be a part of that. And that takes dedication for any organization on campus. And now that we've heard from the candidates, we're joined by our current student body president, Welsford Bishopric. Welsford, thank you so much for joining us here.
My pleasure, guys.
We have a couple questions for you. My first one is, what do you think is your greatest accomplishment during your time as president here at ELN?
Well, I would put that as twofold. First of all, I applaud the work that I helped put in motion, but really the Senate and my fellow execs have kind of helped carry out, and that's really watching a lot of the authority that used to sit with the 4 executive officers, whether it's funding decisions, whether it's speaking engagements, whether it's representing ELN at different events off campus. It usually fell on those 4 individuals, which makes sense because they are the executive branch. They are the ones that are relied on most heavily. But I think that one thing that we've done very well this year is find people within the Senate. There are several examples. The 3 that would immediately come up are the liaisons for each one of our councils. They've done a great job of empowering the senators to kind of step up and make more decisions, and as a byproduct of that, have much more authority. So that would be the first one. The second one honestly didn't touch me until I was sitting in the control room watching all those speeches, and just watching so many people that I've seen come from being, first-year officers or first-year senators or organizational senators, and watching them grow into the people that just gave those speeches was truly amazing.
Yeah, like Joan Corvia said, because I care, but they definitely all care very much about what they do. You talk about solutions, but as SGA executive president, I'm sure you've met your fair share of challenges. What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be for the next executive president?
Well, you can never tell. The biggest challenge of being student body president on a personal level is really learning to set aside maybe the way that you feel about an issue, or maybe the way that you would reflexively respond as an individual. Whether it was 2 years ago when Darian Flowers faced the Chick-fil-A situation, or whether it's something much smaller but still very important to a group or an individual student. You always have to be sensitive to your office, and I think that both Jess and Joe would do an incredible job at that.
Now, I know you mentioned both their names. The question on all of our minds is, who are you endorsing?
Well, I'm not endorsing anyone, and that's for several reasons. First of all, I think it would be inappropriate. But frankly, the bigger reason is these are 2 people that have been incredibly important parts of my administration. Jess is my chief of staff, Joe is my vice president. Those are 2 roles that have been critical to me accomplishing anything that I have accomplished. And so I think that either one of them would do an incredible job. I think ELN is faced with a very, very good choice.
Excellent. Now, what do you think is the most important issue facing the Student Government Association this semester?
This semester is in for the remainder of our term, or going into the ones that Jessica and Joe will be
Let's
facing?
talk about the remainder of your term, because you're.
I think that the biggest thing that we need to focus on is SGA's made a tremendous amount of changes in the last year. We revised our constitution that, as I mentioned, passed on a lot of executive authority down to the Senate. We've started several initiatives, whether it's doing a monthly service project, or whether it's things like Sarah Pianza mentioned in her speech, just community building events like our Sports Fest team. I think the biggest thing is to keep the momentum going through the year. Because of the way our academic year is structured versus the way our Senate year is structured, the last semester that SGA meets is usually a little bit of a lame duck semester, and I think that we've already done a good job of combating that, and I think just more than anything, keeping all the changes that we started going.
Now, you mentioned a lot of changes. What would you like to see SGA doing this time next year?
This time next year, I would love to see much more what SGA is doing rather than what they've done. And the question there is, we've spent this entire year working on intellectual climate, which is something that almost every single candidate mentioned. It's been a huge endeavor. It's something that we're going towards getting legislation on the floor of the Senate next week. And I think that if we can see some of the changes that we've wanted to push through that, whether it's working on the RA position to make that a more enjoyable and more beneficial experience for all of those that are part of it, whether it's finding new intellectual spaces on campus through that initiative, and whether it's just SGA members doing more group activities like our retreat that we went on this year. That was the first time that we've had a really good longer retreat in a long time. I think the organization has come a long way in the last 3 years, and I'd like to see that keep going.
Well, we all hope it definitely does. But thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time, Welsford.